This is the European edition of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show. We bring you the European unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving fintech scene today. A truly localized podcast with both English and local language content, with some of the world's most well-known hosts and influencers in the fintech sector globally. Join us every week as we explore what makes the European Union a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing fintech plays in the world today. Okay, let's roll.
Hello and good afternoon. This is Ajit Tripathi. I'm the crypto co-host of Breaking Banks Europe and Breaking Banks. And today we have some exceptional guests with us. We have Ognjen Ikovic of Vizlor Digital Asset Management from Serbia. We have Gabriele, who is a co-founder of Hercle Market Making, and they focus on market making for institutional users. And we have Diego Accio, who runs an Italian cryptocurrency exchange. So we have three distinguished guests from the European cryptocurrency ecosystem. And we're going to today focus on the rise of cryptocurrency exchanges. Welcome, Ognjen, Gabriele, and Diego.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So why don't we very briefly briefly start with what you're working on. So Diego, do you want to start?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Diego D'Aquilio. I'm working at Yam Platform, which is one of the most important Italian cryptocurrency exchange. The platform was launched in 2018 by 6 Italian students that decided to create this new platform, this new exchange to try to make the cryptocurrency world accessible to everyone. We just raised 3.5 million euro from United Venture, which is one of the most important Italian VCs. And so we are continuing to developing our platform. Right now, we have more than 300,000 users in Italy. So we are one of the most important Italian cryptocurrency community. And so our goal is to become the first player in Italy by the end of the year and to start our internationalization from the next year.
Sounds great. Gabriele?
I'm Gabriele Sabbatini. I am the co-founder of Hercle Financial. We started as a high-frequency trading market-making firm. So our focus was on delta neutral, market-neutral high-frequency trading. Then we realized that institutional investors were entering the crypto market. So now we provide the infrastructure and the algorithms, the execution algorithms, to allow institutional investors to get exposure to crypto asset market.
Great. And Ognjen?
Hello, I'm Ognjen Ikovic, co-founder and CEO of Vizlor Digital Asset Management. I've been in the blockchain space for the past 5 years, building different solutions relative to payments and cryptocurrency trading. Just a few months ago, we actually launched a solution called Vladam, and it's a non-custodial, automated, AI-based cryptocurrency trading solution that helps cryptocurrency traders improve their performance. It's really easy to use. User just select trading strategies, one of the supported trading strategies, and link them to the account they have on third-party exchange like BitMEX, Binance, Coinbase Pro, and so on.
So first, thank you so much for introducing us to your work. So Diego, first question is for you, right? So we've seen the rise of some giant global exchanges, Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, Bitstamp, you name it. Now, is there still space for regional or more targeted exchanges, given the economics of scale and crypto exchanges? There are quite a few regional exchanges around Europe, but from my own experience with working at Binance, it's a very different mix than what some of the larger exchanges run. So where is the opportunity? Where is the gap in the market with such giants essentially offering a lot of liquidity and low cost trading?
Yeah, we see great opportunity because especially in Europe, there are very, very different kind of markets. So Italian market is completely different from Germany, from France, and from other countries. So we think that there are still the possibility for regional exchange to start and to grow, especially during the last months where the regulator, the compliance is becoming more restricting, especially here in Italy. So at the moment in Italy, we don't have a regulatory framework, but the Consob, which is like the Italian FCA, is working very, very hard to explain, to get the possibility to cryptocurrency exchange and to custody provider to get regulated by the end of the year or at the beginning of 2022. So we think that we believe that in the future there will be the possibility that a lot of exchanges, original exchanges, becoming more popular for the next maybe 3 to 5 years. And after that period, maybe there will be a merger and acquisition phase where all the exchanges they try to aggregate themselves. But we think that especially in Europe, where as I said, there are a lot of difference between the different countries, different kind of users, very different way to get into the cryptocurrency space. We think that there are still the possibility for regional exchanges.
Yeah, so can you give us some examples of the type of differences in regulation that impact the crypto exchanges? Because we've been hearing, Coinbase just got a license in Germany. Binance have been saying that they're going to try to get licenses everywhere now. So what are the types of regulations that create this opportunity?
Yeah, because for the moment, as I said, in Italy, there is no regulation. So you can open your own exchange. You only have to respect the AML and the KYC procedure. But we don't have a kind of register where all the exchanges have to be registered, as I said. We know that by the end of the year, or let's start the beginning of 2022, all the cryptocurrency exchange that want to work in the Italian system, the work to Italian territory, they will be to get into this. They will be to get receive an approval from Consob and Bank of Italy. So we think that it will be very difficult for big exchanges to try to approach the regulator in the next month. So we see a lot of space for regional exchanges that are working with the regulator to try to create the rules, to try to be compliant with the rules. And we think that, as I said, for big players, it will be difficult, especially for the Italian market, to get into the market from scratch with no idea to how to approach, how to talk with the regulator.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, so some of those problems are solvable. As in, somebody as well-funded as Binance can hire people from the market, but we're not going to. Yeah, are there any differences in customer needs? And that local exchanges in Europe can serve better or more differently from let's say some of these large global exchanges.
So I can say that starting from 1st of July, for instance, in Serbia, there is a law on digital assets. And it's quite strict regulative, but it's more towards businesses providing services. So it's quite similar to regulation on Malta, for instance, and they have like 8 or 9 different services that businesses can provide, and you need to license for any of them. And from end user perspective, it's more or less the same, as it's only about paying taxes on the profits you make during the trading. So it's not such a strict regulative for end users, but it is really a complex process to obtain a license. And we are just going through that procedure ourselves now as one of the 2 companies that applied for the license. And I can say that it is a long process. It's quite complicated, but hopefully we'll get there.
Yes. And Gabriel, what thoughts on the other differences and customer needs that create?
Yeah, in my opinion, regional exchanges have definitely an edge on the regional customers. But at the end of the day, when a customer is onboarded, so let's say that the customer has no experience regarding the crypto market, the regional exchange is a really good proxy to enter the crypto market at the first time. But at the end of the day, the KPI and let's say the variables that are going to influence the client, the customers, are the same everywhere. So the cost of the fees, the trust you have toward the exchange, the customer support, and definitely if the regional exchange, speak the same languages of the customers, is more reachable in terms of customer support, has a better understanding of the financial law, financial tax situation of the country, definitely can have an edge compared to the other exchanges. But this, I would say that these kind of thoughts are more regarding the basic customers. If you go to advanced customers, I believe that the success factor that an exchange is going to leverage are the same everywhere, as I said before, meaning that the fees, the trust you have, if he provides credit lines to the customers, the days you have to wait for withdrawals, and this kind of stuff. Also, when it comes to regional exchanges, let's say in Italy, for example, if you are a customer, you can have instant payment or instant bank transfer to the exchange, which is an edge compared to global exchanges.
So Diego, Gabriele, question for you. We've been in a very favorable interest rate environment, and there is a time window on when the interest rates go up again, and the demand for risk assets kind of adjusts a bit. How do you see the long-term potential of crypto assets and crypto exchanges in Europe? Are we going through an unusual bull market, or are we going to see a sustained growth for the next 3 to 5 years or 10 years?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that, as you said, now for us there was a very, very good year. 3-5 years were incredible for cryptocurrency exchange, for cryptocurrency platform, and for the players in this industry. Now we have to try to imagine how this market will evolve in the next year. As I said before, we believe that regulator compliance will be one of the factors to get more and more important. And of course, for an Italian cryptocurrency exchange like Young Platform, it's important to try to understand how to expand, because the Italian market is limited. Okay, it's a good market. It's a big market because there are 60 million people in Italy. And there are a lot of we think that there are still a lot of big opportunities because the Italian banks are really, really slow to move. They don't have the possibility. They don't want to try to get into this space. So we think for players like Young, other competitor, there's space. And we do believe that DeFi, so the decentralized finance, could have a good impact into this space, because DeFi right now is it's common for people like us that are into this space since 2014, 2015. But for retail, DeFi is still they still have to explore, and so they need a players that are able to get these people into DeFi in a simple way, in an accessible way. And so we think that DeFi could be one of the key factor, could be one of the gateway to bring new users into the crypto space. Retail, I'm speaking about retail users and people that want to get into this space.
Crypto exchanges aren't necessarily DeFi, right? As in the so centralized exchanges are obviously different from decentralized protocols governed by communities. So are you, Diego, are you focusing on creating a regulated interface to DeFi, or on actually building a decentralized platform?
Both, because we think that for institutional clients, it's important to have a sort of regulated DeFi. So we think that there are possibility in that space, but at the same time, for us, it's very, very important to try to create accessible platform, easy to use instrument. Because right now, DeFi is something great. It's becoming more easy to use, but I can assure you that for our customer, for our persona, it's still hard to understand and to use DeFi. So I believe that we have to be able to create something easy to use. It's the first, and at the same time we have to create a great educational platform. We have to insist into the education to try to explain to people how DeFi can solve, decentralized finance can solve some problems and can improve their lives because banks are not able to reach these people and to create and to give them these kind of products.
Yeah. In my humble opinion, for the next years, exchanges have to invest on three major trends. The first one is the retail-driven demand, because I really don't believe that it is exhausted yet. And the second trend that exchanges really should look into is the asset organization. So let's say that they can list several different tokens or represents physical assets or securities or whatever, and that will be a challenge on the, let's say, compliance standpoint. And the third major trend is the DeFi, because I completely agree with Diego. I believe, first of all, the regulators will try at least to censor the complete decentralized platform. So they will always try to enforce at least know your customer anti-money laundering procedures on the onboarding of the clients on the decentralized platform. And I believe that the exchanges, like centralized exchanges that already has clients on their platform, can work on a really nice, let's say, graphic user interface, so can provide the access to DeFi. Also because they are, first of all, they have already clients. Second of all, they have trust, which is always better in this kind of situation, because accountability is important. It's important both for retails, but especially for institutional investors.
I would partially agree with Gabriele and Diego as well. So basically, let's say how you are choosing a cryptocurrency exchange that you want to open account at this point. You are looking at accessibility in terms, can you open an account there due to regulative? Then you are looking about security, how secure is it? Have they have any previous incidents and how they handle it? Then fees. And finally, liquidity is also quite important factor, as well as these maybe offered coins. If you are looking for specific coins to trade with, you need to find exchanges where you want to actually where you can trade with these coins. Now, all of these have been handled by major cryptocurrency exchanges, and there are small differences in fees and in liquidity. I believe that the future is indeed decentralized finance, but we are not there yet in terms of user experience and in terms of raising awareness about what values does decentralized finance actually bring to end users. And shows like this and young platform that Diego is working on are the good approach in increasing the awareness, but also in providing really good user experience in the end.
Great. So we are close to halfway now. So let's take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll talk about crypto exchange in the context of fintech, European regulation, where the sector fits from a crypto from a broader fintech perspective.
The FTS Fest is back. As 2021 develops, it will become more and more apparent how this year can truly mark the start of a second fintech revolution. Starting with a focus on sustainability, financial inclusion, and impact investing, topics that today must be considered transversely. We'll explore trends that are already shaking up the industry, such as embedded and decentralized finance spotting. Be part of the Fintech Revolution 2.0. Join ftsfest.com.
Hello. So we are back here on the 90th episode of Breaking Banks Europe, focusing on the rise of cryptocurrency exchanges. With me, I have our guests Gabriele Sabbatini, Ognjen Ikovic, and Diego Diakio. As we discussed, Revolut is essentially a fintech, and it sort of owns the front end to a lot of European customers. Then we also see PayPal looking to offer some crypto services soon in the UK. Now on the back end, these entities use large institutional brokers like Paxos, or they often have APIs or principal trading with the risk being offset across multiple cryptocurrency exchanges. So from a regional crypto exchanges perspective, from a European perspective, this is a new source of competition, and not necessarily with a lot of market power. So Diego, how do you plan to compete in that space, and how do you plan to position yourself as a fintech with a fiat and crypto combined experience, or as more of a pure play crypto entity?
Yeah, it's a good point, because we believe that this player will be a huge. They will completely shock our ecosystem, because Revolut, PayPal, and all these players that want to, they are both into this space, but if they want to attack the retail customer for the crypto space, it will be something that we need to be very, very careful. So this is the reason why we want to compete where we think that we can have some edge. As I said, we now have our own community, so we do believe that creating community, it could be something that we can do well and better than these big players. At the same time, one of the reasons why, in my opinion, Gateway Exchange, regional exchange, can have some possibility to survive is that we have partnership with Italian bank for our case. So we are a good gateway between the fiat and the crypto. In my opinion, of course, with Revolut, it will be easier to use your own euro to buy cryptocurrency, but we can offer the same. At the moment, we think that we can offer a better service, because, as I said, there are a lot of possibility that we can offer to our users. And so we believe that this gateway for our clients that want to get into the market and want to get out of the market when they want to sell their position and convert into euro, it could be something that we can offer in comparison of these big players.
Yeah, makes sense. So, Ognjen, from an institutional perspective, what are the regulations that you tend to be most cognizant of or concerned about? Or because in Europe, for example, we've seen a lot of critical noises coming from regulators, whether it's the OECD, the FATF, or policy institutions. We've also seen the FCA spend 11 million pounds on educating young people about the risk of cryptocurrencies and so on, as opposed to potentially spending 11 million on registration and licensing for crypto entities. The money could have been spent differently, right? So I'm not seeing a lot of favorable regulatory approaches in the continents. From an institutional standpoint, how do you see this impacting what you're trying to do?
So it's not favorable at all from what we have seen so far. As I mentioned, we are going through this process, and it's quite complex. From my point of view, it's easier to open a bank now than to provide a service in the domain of digital assets. But what we are trying to do is we are trying to stay on the non-custodial side. Then things are more simpler in a way. For us, so we are able to manage funds in a non-custodial context. Doing a portfolio management and trading on behalf of our users on their own accounts. in that, from that perspective, the regulations are quite more simple, and it would allow us to continue doing business like that. But for all these regional exchanges, it's really complex, especially in a way, in the terms of the data that you need to collect, store, and share with the authorities regarding your end users. So there are like a lot of different reports that you need to provide to authorities on a daily and a monthly basis about your users, about their transactions. Pretty much, it's really extreme overhead for a small company to enter the market. So let's say that you have some big players on the cryptocurrency market. It's not that much of an issue for them to provide everything, but you as a small startup would need basically a legal team and an administrative team in order to comply with all the regulations.
That's right. That's right. So, and one of the things that I think is particularly interesting is the regulation around stablecoins. There is a lot of buzz in Europe from various policy institutions and regulators around how stablecoins should be regulated. Now, it turns out we already have the electronic money framework, right? And USDC is regulated as electronic money. So I'm not quite sure what the point of all this noise around the financial stability implications of stablecoins is when we already have quite an evolved regulatory framework. So the question is, and that brings us to a different topic, which is, sure, there is a very favorable market environment. There is a lot of customer adoption of cryptocurrencies, but at the same time, we are starting to see a lot of fear in the previous generation around this asset class. And that previous generation still, is a little bit away from the technology and still owns the keys to most of the policy institutions and regulatory agencies. So, what are we doing in Europe to sort of educate, inform, and work with the regulators and policy institutions to reduce the risk of sort of a clamp down or unfavorable regulation, which isn't completely thought through and something that really stymies innovation. So are you guys doing something in the background to create a favorable policy environment for our industry?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, we see that in the majority of the states, the Europe, the regulators tend to launch this sandbox, where startups and regulators and vigilant authorities can work together in order to produce an output which is favorable both for the startups and the regulators. And in fact, in Italy, Consob, which is the authority who controls the capital markets, basically, the Italian FCA, just launched its sandbox where fintech startup, especially crypto startup, can work with the regulators in order to, let's say, lighten the compliance that startup should face. And this kind of agreement is something like so the startup is able to do what he wants to do, but has to without to complain with all the strict regulations that there are in financial markets, but the startup has to keep up to date the regulator. And as Hercle, we are already working with the regulators as a blockchain education network, which is a non-profit association that I am the secretary of this association. We do this kind of a lobbying activity with the regulators, with the ministers, in order to educate them and to manifest our interests.
So last question: Europe is not known for some of the for the type of venture environment or capital environment that US has, or even China has now, or India has now, which is sort of long-term risk-taking bets from the likes of Andreessen Horowitz or Paradigm or Sequoia. I think we're seeing a lot of activity in China and India, not just in the United States. So how has your experience been with regards to the venture environment and funding environment for availability of risk capital for what you're trying to do, Ognjen, Diego? And what do you need from the fintech community to support in terms of support as to for what you're trying to build?
Yeah, I can give you our story. As I said before, we raised 2 months ago from the most important Italian VC that decided to get into this space for the first time. They already invested in the fintech space, but for them it was the first investment into the crypto space. Of course, it's very, very different from the US or Asia, where all the VCs are into this space since so many years. But in Europe, we see that there are a lot of traditional venture capital. They want to get into this space because they know that it's the future of the industry. So not only the fintech, but especially the crypto space, because they know the traditional finance is every day is less popular with especially for the retail users. So they think that, in my opinion, they and maybe they don't understand 100% all the potential of DeFi, but they know they at least they are trying to understand that this new wave, especially for the retail customer, could be something huge and could be the next, revolution in the space. When all the people, they will totally understand this new potential, and when platform like Yang or other competitors that are able to bring to these people the instrument to get into the space.
Right. Ognjen, Gabriele?
So from my point of view, or at least from my personal experience, we are fully bootstrapped, so we didn't raise any funds, but we did seize the opportunity of different European open calls, grants and projects like BlockIS and BlockStart, where we secured part of the funds for development of our solution. So in that way, there is really a lot of opportunities within these European Horizon projects to get funding to get started. But regarding some additional investment, I can say not in a form of investing in a company, but more as a client, we were able to more easily obtain large cryptocurrency investment funds from US as our initial clients than any of the cryptocurrency funds from Europe. So the process usually lasts a couple of months after you present your solution and explain its benefits and all. But we at least our experience is to have, let's say, a smooth negotiation process with the cryptocurrency investment funds from US compared to the ones that we engaged in Europe, and they're more easily to allocate funds for asset management.
Fair enough. Gabriele?
From my understanding, now in Europe, you can have different type of VCs. You can have, the old institutional VCs who are just started moving, depending on the state. Let's say in Germany, they are, they move faster and they started moving before compared to Italy. But yeah, institutionals are entering the market, even if they face challenges in evaluating the startups because they don't know the market. They don't know the standard KPIs of this kind of market and the products. They have difficulties in assessing the team and so on. And then you have, crypto VCs who are this kind of new VCs who tend to invest just in tokens or this kind of stuff. And then, they want the pre-sale. Then you have to list the token because they hope the token is going to be, to do a per 5 times after just after the listing or this kind of stuff. So I think that this is the activity in the market now in Europe, and also you have the banks and the corporate partners in general that they realize that they are they already lose the first mover advantage, So they are trying to reach out to startups and that are doing, activity in this kind of market in order to, see if they can invest. And I believe that there is a huge possibility that in the next 2 years, 3 years, we're going to see a lot of M&A activity from banks. So we're going to buy, crypto startups and this kind of,
So that's a very interesting perspective, right? So I think as what I'm translating everything you said is that, sure, there is venture funding available in the early stages, but obviously the risk preferences are different and the funding for scaling is a little bit limited. And that's always been the case in fintech in Europe. I mean, until, and even some of the biggest entrepreneurs, biggest startups, whether it's Revolut or Klarna, have got quite a bit of funding from the US investors, and we're seeing the same pattern in crypto. Now, so that limits the the scalability and global competitiveness to some extent, obviously, and the domestic regulatory environment as well. So I think what would be interesting is if we can find a way to work as a community and address those two specific challenges around scalability and regulation, then we could potentially create truly world-class crypto fintech US entities or China based. And I mean there are some examples, like I work for Aave, and Aave is European homegrown and one of the largest DeFi protocols in the world. But there are very few examples like that, right? There's Nexus Mutual and a few others. There are some DeFi protocols that have done really, really well and have been born and grown out of Europe. But those examples are fewer than I think we would like to see. So overall, I think this has been a very helpful discussion, Diego, Ognjen, Gabriele, in helping I think our listeners understand the state of the crypto industry, the rise of the crypto exchanges, where the opportunities are, where the challenges are, and where we could collaborate as an industry to create, first of all, a favorable policy environment, secondly, a favorable venture environment, and then third, to make sure that as a continent we remain competitive and we do not limit innovation and therefore our own competitiveness, because we're seeing a lot of that with AI around GDPR, with crypto around unfavorable regulation. So maybe we shouldn't be in a hurry as a continent to regulate before we innovate. And so I think hopefully that message reaches where it belongs. And we've been working very proactively with agencies to sort of to educate and inform and point at the opportunity of this new Web3 ecosystem that's been created. And it's really great that you guys are doing the same thing. So thank you so much. And it was truly a privilege to host you on our podcast, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do so again. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Europe, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with FinTech Stage. Don't forget to tweet us out, shout out, or post to the team at Breaking Banks EU on Twitter. If there's something or someone you'd like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next week on Breaking Banks Europe.